Everybody, welcome to the lack of uploads again, or better yet, sorry for the lack of uploads. It has been quite busy, there's been a lot going on, and I was going to hold off on doing the July albums of the month, because we're in August, and I haven't even reviewed anything from August yet, but yeah, I'm going to make this one short again. There isn't too much to talk about, like only 9 albums I believe I've got for this, because there wasn't really much I wanted to talk about in July that came out. Everything I wanted to talk about I already did a separate video on, so let's just dive into it. So I'm going to start from the worst, go to the alright, and then go to the best. So starting off with the worst, in my opinion, we got only one worst entry, and this is Glass Animals. I Love You So Fucking Much. I'm going to be honest, I really don't love this album so fucking much whatsoever, because to me, Glass Animals have just kind of delved into some of the most mediocre, mainstreamable writing they have. Matter of fact, this is just copying the previous album's sound with less originality intact. I mean, the previous album had one of the biggest songs of all time released, Heat Waves, which this was a huge phenomenon for Glass Animals, but I don't really care for that, and I have not enjoyed anything from this new record. It's pretty dull, it's lifeless, and it just does not kind of bring in the classic elements that this band once had. It's pretty much lost, and I hope they do step back into what they've done before, because they have got some alright tunes, but yeah, this is really not it. I've given this one a 1.5 out of 5, and that is all the worst albums, so we're going to the alright. Starting off with Orange Goblin, Science Not Fiction, something a little sludgier in the list. This one's fine. I think, in my opinion, Orange Goblin, they've kind of really done the best of their sounds, so now here we got is something that feels like it's like an imitation of some sort, trying to release some of the best sounds. Like, it's not a bad record. I think the first track, with The Fire at the Centre of the Earth Is Mine, is where you kind of get some of the classic licks that just really feel stony, sludgy, that just give you that perfect hit of what Orange Goblin's about. But as you go through the record, they just kind of do stuff you've heard before. It's kind of predictable, it's not as exciting when I listen, but it's not a bad album either. I still feel like for standards of Orange Goblin, it's not quite as high, but they definitely nailed this one to some degree that it's worth a listen, but it's just not one of the best albums, I can kind of say that. It's alright in my opinion. Visions of Atlantis, Pirates 2, Armada. Visions of Atlantis had some decent stuff. I liked the track Creatures, and I also quite enjoyed the someone slamming the door outside twice. I also like the Tonight I'm Alive track. I think the kind of pirate theme just is fun. It kind of gives me a little bit of the Pirates of the Caribbean mixed with Ailstorm elements to blend in. It works with the power metal sound of the band, but I'm going to be honest, I'm not big on this album as much as I want it to be. It's fine, it's good, it's a decent listen, but it's not strong enough to pull me in to listen to more of Vision Atlantis earlier stuff, or at least Pirates 1, because I don't know, I haven't really listened to much, but the aesthetic they have here, still nice. I just don't think it's quite as good as it could be. It could be a bit more polished. And then Kick the Giant, Presence. Kick the Giant is a very obscure small artist, so if you haven't heard of him, I don't blame you. This is a new prog rock band that's been going for quite some time actually, but they haven't really released an album till now. Presence. It's fine. I feel like it's got some cool elements. I like the louder kind of brass instruments taking play in some case or another, but for the most part it's just there. I don't think it's a strong debut, but it's definitely cool to see the potential this band has, especially since some of the songs can be quite catchy on this record as well. It's a fun listen, but not one I'm crazy about. And that is all the alright albums. Now we're going into the best, which thankfully there's more best than alright and worst combined, so July may not be as bad as I thought it was. Starting off, we have In Heart's Wake, Incarnation. I was really looking forward to this one because the track Orphan was insanely brilliant, and the more I dived into the record, it kind of felt a bit same old, where it did the same formula that this track did, and I'm fine with that, but it just didn't really pop out to me as much as I wanted it to. Nonetheless though, it's still exciting. It's a fun metalcore release, it's clean, it just bangs, it smashes hard, and that's all I could really ask for it. I don't think it's the craziest release this year as I wanted it to be, but I still feel like the tracks have been great. There's a lot of replay value to me to come back into it, and just some cool hooks, and I think even some good DPS features. It's about what I expected from it, so that's pretty good. Deep Purple has made what is called a comeback album with equals 1. Deep Purple has kind of been on a decline. It's a band from the 60s that's released music consistently, but this is kind of the first time in a while I think Deep Purple has got their heads out of the gutter to release one of the best records in such a while. I think there's a lot of fun creative riffs. I think the vocals work immensely well. The writing definitely feels more top notch than it has for a while. This definitely is the most hype I've had for a Deep Purple release, considering I'm not a big fan of them in general, but it's just such a monumental, iconic, classic act, and while they had such a great few albums, over time it has just steadily gone into some of the weakest territory, but they pushed out with what I consider to be one of the strongest albums in such a while from them that I wanted to mention it here. It's fun, it can be a bit long here and there, so I definitely give it a listen though. It's a fun album to go through. Next we have Forthright, a prog metal band that's quite small with Techniflux. This one is great, some really good unclean, some really good melodic moments, the instrumentals kick ass, it's pretty fun. I'm not hooked onto it as some of the other stuff I've mentioned already. I will say that I preferred it in Heartswake and Deep Purple, but Forthright is just good, okay? It's not immensely good, it's just good enough to be good that you can kind of sit down, turn your brain off and relax and kind of enjoy it, but it's not quite as amazing as I wanted it to be. Nonetheless though, some tracks kick ass, like the opening, even the closing track is also pretty sick as well. Forthright, not the best, but I definitely enjoyed this one. Moving on to Graphic Nature, Who Are You When No One Is Watching? Probably my most hyped album on the list. Graphic Nature did a debut last year, A Mind Waiting to Die, which was an honourable mention, so it just missed the top 25 for me, and it definitely deserved a spot on there, at least the top 50 if I did that last year, which I didn't. But yeah, second album already, and the thing is, I kind of prefer this one. I feel like this one has more of a direction and more of the sound that Graphic Nature's been building up, but in a more confident manner. In some cases, like tracks like Fractured and Human hit me a lot harder than some of the tracks on My Waiting to Die. Like, they had this kind of new metal sound, bringing it into new territory, and while the debut record's good, I still feel like this one just kind of brings more to the table. It's more versatile, it's got a bit more consistency. At the same time, it doesn't kind of have these small abrupt endings to some of the tracks to ruin the vibe. They definitely nail it. Tracks like Human pulled me in. Sight I'm Not, it's just a banger. There's a lot of good tracks, and I really enjoyed this one. It's a fun album, and yeah, it's a 3.5 out of 5 for me. I notice I haven't really ranked any of the others from their points, but let's just say, besides Forthright, every single good track I've talked about is a 3.5 out of 5. Let's just note that, because I've only got one more left, and I have kind of pushed that already. But I'm doing this in one take, so if I do forget stuff, that's partially the reason why. And finally, we're ending off with Powerwolf, Wake Up the Wicked. Powerwolf, another power metal band mentioned. I feel like Wake Up the Wicked is a good strong sound. It's better than Interludium in my opinion. I kind of think this one has a bit more iconic sounds to it. It kind of pulls me in a little bit more than Interludium did, but the problem is Powerwolf don't think is releasing again their best music. Wake Up the Wicked's fine, but I just don't really find many of the songs to stand out after listening to it. Joan of Arc was a favourite of mine. Even Bless Him With a Blade is a good opening track, but there are just some that kind of goes one ear out the other. Like, it's not bad stuff at all, but I feel like because Powerwolf hasn't really expanded too much upon the sound they've been bringing, it's not quite as fun as it could be. See, bands like Camelot, when it comes to power metal, I always enjoy because there's so much layers and depth to the writing that it just pulls me in. With Powerwolf there is, but they do the same instrumentals almost to me in more recent times that kind of pulls me away a little bit. Even stuff like Ailstorm do that, but Ailstorm is still fun because it's just silly nonsense. Like, you can have gimmicks and stuff, and Powerwolf is one of the OGs, not OGs, but rather one of the biggest bands to name for power metal. and I don't think they've been quite releasing their best stuff more recently, but the thing I gotta applaud with Powerwolf is they still have the consistency to make stuff that is worth listening to, and I'm not saying that this is perfect, this is still a good album, and I definitely recommend this one if you're into some classic power metal. And that is my July albums of the month review. I hope you all enjoy, thank you so much for watching, and I hope I can get some stuff down for August. See ya.